The 3 inputs you need to gain clarity. Today's conversation is sponsored by the Billy Keels Advisory Program. If you want to learn more about how to make your 9-to-5 optional, just go to billykeels.com/advising. Once again, that's billykeels.com/advising. The 3 inputs you need to gain clarity, once you hear them, you're going to realize that what you thought, like a lot of times people will talk to you about clarity and you think, well, this is something that can't be quantifiable. Well, I'm here to tell you that it absolutely can be quantifiable. In listening to the rest of this very brief episode, you're going to figure out exactly how you can quantify clarity. Because in like most of these stories that I want to share with you, I actually got a part of the clarity equation correct, but there are some critical elements that I was missing that I want to make sure that you have, so that when you figure out whether or not you're clear, you can actually look back and say, do I have A, B, and C? And if you have A, B, and C, or 1, 2, and 3, then you can get to the sum, which means either yes, you have clarity, or no, you don't, based on the elements that you've put together. Because that's really what I want for you. And a lot of it started for me. I remember back when I was still working in corporate, the corporate gig was going really, really well. I'd started investing in some real estate because that was the very unique concept that I chose to use very early on in my career. Once I started becoming a little bit more of a sophisticated investor, and things were going well, so well that my job was somewhat on cruise control, although I didn't realize there was going to be another big wave coming at me. And more importantly, I was having some early successes with my unique concept with the real estate stuff. And so when things were going well, I realized that it was time for me to go out and continue to invest in myself. And one of the exercises that I went through was something about creating an exercise, which is be, do, and have, which I like to really put very similar to the elements that you need to have, the elements of your ideal day. Like, what do you want to be? What do you want to do? And what do you want to have? Not the opposite, which is really someone like me, a middle-class kid who watched their parents work really, really hard, tried to figure out what are the things that I want to have. And then I tried to figure out, okay, well, what do I want to do with what I have? And then didn't really give a lot of thought to who I wanted to be. However, that was one of the things that was critical that my parents were pouring into me. But anyway, when you're a kid, you're not really necessarily listening to that. So let me not digress. So what I want to make sure is that we can build on what I started out, which was a clear understanding of what I wanted to see. Like, so I created this vision board, and that was a really critical element, because when I start thinking about it, I knew what I wanted to be doing, and I wanted to receive the recognition for the things that I was doing, the things that I was aggregating or having. And at the same time, what I really wanted, really wanted, if someone would have truly asked me, taken the time to ask me like what it was that I wanted, well, I just wanted to have increased confidence and more security, because that was what I knew would help me and my family. I could protect my family, right? And I could provide for my family, and having that confidence to go out and continue to do it and then provide that security, that protection for my family was the thing that was really driving me, right? And so as I started recognizing what was happening, I realized that it was easy for me to get started because I had this desire that was going on deep down in my stomach, and I listened to it and I took action on it. And I was taking action, and at that point, it was definitely in my perfectionist phase. Nowadays, self-proclaimed recovering perfectionist. But what I realized is that it was easier to get started. And because I had early success with this concept, with this real estate that I was investing in, it was kicking off a lot more money than I had anticipated. I just wanted to keep going. And what that ended up creating for me was a different problem, because when you find something that you really, really enjoy and you're passionate, you want to go all in on that. And I had this day job that was paying me really, really well, a lot more money than I ever expected. And the fact that I was crushing it at the office, overachieving against my quotas after I got past my first year of making a lateral move. But I think I've talked about that. But if not, that's a whole separate podcast. I could talk about that for hours and the things that I learned as a result of that. But I realized that it was easy to start, but the challenge was understanding when to stop or why I would stop. Because when I didn't actually understand, when was enough, I just kept going, right? And it was a matter of going. And when I say enough, I'm specifically talking about making money, making it and keeping it. keeping money. Um, but then I realized that when I looked around me, that there were actually people who were continuing to do well off, people that I was meeting offline, because it was critical that I start to meet people outside of my corporate role. I was investing in myself and in groups to be a part of masterminds, online communities, and actually paying to get into other communities. Because if I would have stayed just within my corporate realm the entire time, I would have probably, well, I would still be in corporate. Like, that's not a big shocker. So I'm telling you that. But when I started realizing that there were others that were going down a similar track and they appeared to be living their best lives, like, I wanted to emulate that. I wanted to figure out what it was that they were doing. And so that was one of the reasons I mentioned to you before. It was one of the exercises that I did was creating a vision board. But when I started to, like, now that I've gone life outside of corporate, built a company that was successful, had some business challenges, and starting to continue to learn from all of this process, this is when it can help me to understand and figure out, okay, well, what is it that I can do to share with you so that you can understand that clarity is not just this nebulous term. It's not just creating vision boards and stuff like that. Like, you can literally understand, are you clear or are you not? And these are the elements that I want to give you. I want to give you more than I got, because I want you to be crystal clear on clarity, whether you have it or you don't. And the reason for that, and I'm going to come back and I'm going to tell you this at the end, but I think it's worth repeating already, is that not if things get hard, when things get hard, you want to make sure, and I mean the business environment, the life environment, this new venture that you're starting up, it's going to get hard and things are not going to go according to plan. And if you are not crystal clear on what you're doing, and more importantly, why you're doing it and for whom you're doing it, you will stop. I don't want that for you, which is why I'm going to share what I'm going to share here. So when I went back through and I just sat down and I revisited these concepts, I want to share the three inputs that you need so that you can gain clarity, because I want you to be undeniable clarity that you have. So the first thing that we talked about, and I mentioned this, was you have this concept of what it is. What is the day that you want to be able to live over and over and over again, right? If you're not clear on what that day looks like, how it feels, the smells that you want to have, who are the people that are around you, if you're not crystal clear on that, if you can't invest enough time to get crystal clear on that, when things go wrong, not if, and I know I keep saying this, when things go wrong, that's one element that you don't have to cling to. And if you don't have it to cling to, trust me, you will move into an area that is taking you away from whatever you think is the goal that you want to go after. Secondly, once you get that clarity, it's like one of these things I read. I was doing some reading, and I'm always interested in knowing more stories about history and stuff like that, because I didn't like it a lot when I was in school. So now, of course, I'm interested in it. And there's a story about John D. Rockefeller when he was making so much money in his oil and gas company and all this kind of stuff. He got to a point where he said, enough is enough. Like, how much money is enough? And so once you get to the point where you understand that you enjoy your corporate role, it's doing a lot of positive things for you. And you also, at the same time, you want to begin to build this new life on your terms when it's right for you. Don't fall into the trap of just continuing to work for money, to make more money, to keep more money. At a certain point, you've got to know when enough is enough. And so when you figure that out and you come up with your number, which is your optionality number, then you know that you are working at a point where you can now set your role set on cruise control, and you can decide that you want to move into that next venture or not. But that's a second element. That it's a second input that's really, really important. And then lastly, this is one of the things that I learned post-corporate, specifically post-corporate, or I actually felt it, right? I felt it in two different ways. One was through personal life, one was through professional life. I've gone into that more of that detail, and I think it's on episode 435, the episode I did with Jerome Meyer. So I'm not going to go over it again here, but this taught me massive life lessons, right? In both personal and professional life. And what that is basically being able to recognize that things do not always go according to plan, right? No matter what you do, no matter how much you think or believe or what have you, very rarely do things go 100% according to plan. What I can tell you after now looking back and reflecting and being a part of a structured plan is you must have a plan for doomsday when things don't go according to your plan. And I know that sounds pretty dramatic, but when you've lived through dramatic situations, you realize you don't want that to happen for other people, because you're here investing your time, effort, and energy in the podcast. I don't want it for you. So that's why I'm sharing the third element. And the thing is having that plan for doomsday, that plan for resiliency, to be able to bounce back, to be able to come back. It's critical for you to do the work and the thought process on the front end, because when things are falling around you, as long as you have something to go back to, it's going to help you move through that difficult time with less pain, with less aggravation, with less of the challenges that come with doomsday scenarios. So, once I realized this, you're going to go through difficult times. You're going to go through challenges. And the thing that's going to get you back every single time, it's going to pull you back, it's going to help you continue to move forward, is having crystal clarity on what you're doing, why you're doing it, and for whom you're doing it, right? So I got to a point where I was able to choose, because I had some level of clarity. I didn't have the crystal clarity, the 3 inputs that I just shared with you, to be able to be crystal clear on your ideal day, to know what your optionality number is, and also, just in case it wasn't clear, to be able to have that plan for doomsday, that resiliency plan to help you bounce back. I was able to get through corporate and be able to choose when it was the right moment to never go back to corporate for me, right? And never is a strong word, I know, but I want to use it here, to not go back to corporate, not because it wasn't a positive experience. And I guess if all else failed, one day I really, really had to, would I? Possibly, but I like the lifestyle and the life that I'm living now. And that's why I'm here sharing it with you, because I know it's possible, because I did it. But more importantly than that, it was being able to get to this point and understanding how important clarity is, to build beyond just the initial vision in the board, but also to put numbers behind it. Like, what is the optionality number? How do you get to that? And then also to be able to have a very clear, structured plan for doomsday, when you need to bounce back. And when you can look back and say, do I have 1, 2, and 3? And do I have specificity around each one of those? You're able to look at yourself in the mirror with confidence to say, you know what? I've got these elements. And am I crystal clear? Yes, that I'm moving towards the goal, or no, I'm not moving towards the goal. If it's yes, continue to move forward. If it's no, continue to do the work so that you are able to quantify clarity. Because these 3 important inputs that you need to gain clarity will help you move forward faster. Boom. I've talked too much. Anyway, listen, I wanted to share these with you. I know that they're going to be massively impactful, powerful for you, because I want you to be able to quantify clarity. If you see me on social media, LinkedIn especially, say, I love quantifiable clarity, because it's a movement I want to create. A bit tongue in cheek. But anyway, listen, take today's episode, share it with family, share it with friends. I know it's going to make a positive impact. Let me know what you think about the episode. If you have questions, come back to me. Leave us an honest written review. We want to do that as well. I'll read all of them and can come back to you that way. And also, we've got the Q&A. So if you want to leave a Q&A, just you can do that as well. So share it with family, share it with friends. I'll be here preparing for the next conversation episode. More importantly, I'll be here preparing for the next episode. So until then, go out and make it a great day. And thank you very, very much. Today's conversation was sponsored by the Billy Keels Advisory Program. If you're looking to make your 9-to-5 optional and need some help, just go to billykeels.com/advising. Once again, that's billykeels.com/advising.